Hello, everyone, and welcome to Retired Life. Wish you were here. The podcast where we explore the joys and adventures and challenges of life after 55. I'm Kim Lee, and with me is my husband and my co host, Stuart Lee.
Thanks, Kim. Today we're diving into a topic that isn't always easy to talk about, but it's one that matters to every man. To help us explore this, we're joined by our good friend, life coach, and pickleball pro, Tristan Eldridge. I know I have trouble saying that, Tristan, so bear with me.
You're good, buddy.
Tristan works with men and women of all ages, but he has a special way of speaking directly to the challenges faced as we age. Tristan, welcome back.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be back with you, too.
Tristan, when men retire, a lot of us lose our sense of identity, whether it's loss from work or providing for the family. What are some of the biggest challenges you see facing the transition period?
That's a good question. That's a great question, Stuart. It's been my experience in working with men specifically that once they retire, their career was so much of their identity. Whereas women, it's usually being the mom and raising the kids, and that's more of their identity. And the male has been more of the provider, and they've had that providership identity. And so when they retire, it's like, what am I supposed to do now? In fact, if you think about most men, their dangling carrot for their whole career is that moment of retirement. I've only got 10 more years to go for retirement. There's this excitement as they see those years, rolling by, and like I'm getting closer to that magical moment where I can finally, I'm not working for the man anymore and I can have my own. And then when that moment happens, there is this, oh crap, what am I supposed to do with my life, and who am I, and what's my purpose? And for a man, Stuart, purpose is everything. They have to have a purpose. And so around that retirement time, the men that come to see me, they just feel, to use a boat analogy, they feel like they're a boat out on the Gulf with the motor is just gone. It's not working, and they're just adrift. And until they get some direction, there are these moments of, I'm not sure what to do, and that makes men feel uncomfortable.
So how does losing that provider role affect their self-confidence, do you think?
It does affect their self-confidence. It certainly does, especially if their identity has been truly wrapped up in their career. Now, for the men that have had a good balance in life where career has been maybe the focal point, but they also have done a good job with a hobby, for instance, like golf or fishing or something, that they've maintained this, or they've had maybe even a business hobby on the side that they were kind of bringing along, such that when they retired, then they started working for themselves with that retired hobby. Those are some of the things that, as I get men that are in their 50s and 60s and they're considering to retire, we start to talk about what's your exit strategy from, to help them overcome these issues.
Wow. What particular steps can men take to rediscover their purpose in retirement?
I think the first steps that when I'm meeting with a man and we're talking about this, we sit down and we basically plan it like, all right, what's your vision? What's your goal? Like, it's more or less a vision board. What would you like to do? That's usually the first question I ask somebody is, what do you imagine yourself doing? If money wasn't an option and everything was great, what do you see yourself doing when you retire? What does that look like? I just get them thinking about it and talking about it. And a lot of men have never done that. They just never stopped and thought of it from that perspective. And so from there, then I start asking drill down questions. And it's pretty interesting. Men, it's up here, Stuart. I know women don't think we think, and I know the women think that we don't think enough. We do, but we store it in our brain's file cabinets, right? And the difference between men and women when we're talking about brain file cabinets, I don't know if you've ever heard this story told this way, but I always found it humorous, and I always love the opportunity to bring it out when I'm in mixed couple. Inside our brain, and inside a man's brain, is a 3-drawer file cabinet where we store stuff, right? And what a man does is he goes, oh, I know what's in there. Oh, it's in the top one. He reaches in, he pulls the one out, he leafs through, he goes, oh, there it is. He pulls the one envelope out and then shuts the drawer, right? If you look in a woman's brain, it's the exact opposite. If you open a woman's drawer, all 3 of those file drawers are open. They never get shut, ever. And so so women are more easily able to access their thoughts and their memories and their mind, whereas man, we have to remind them, hey, it's in the file drawer, just go get it.
I see mine as this big spiraling thing going in a circle,
it's always
and
there.
it's pulling out the files.
See?
I mean,
It's always open.
that's true.
It's always open.
I picture a file cabinet, all 3 drawers open, and papers everywhere.
That's right. In Kim's mind, right? But but to be fair, in your mind,
no, it's right there as you stated. Top
drawer, it's
halfway
closed
back, right
unless
there.
you need it.
Pull the file out.
And when you
close
pull it out, you close the file.
Exactly.
And that's how men think. And that right there, just that one humorous example, illustrates why sometimes it's difficult for men and women to communicate.
And you think humor probably helps a lot. You've got to keep
You've got to keep a sense of humor, right? And in fact, when we were talking about men and aging and retirement, one of the top things that a woman is looking for in a relationship is humor. It's one of the top characteristics. So, got to keep that in mind.
One of the biggest changes men face is sexual health. Things don't always work like they used to. How do you encourage men to talk about that without being embarrassed?
That's a tough one.
Yes, sir.
That is a great one. You want to go there, right?
That's what the topic is.
I'm glad you're willing to go there. Because I think men, we have been conditioned our entire life, especially if we're talking about 55 plus, right? The generation that we grew up in, that demographic fills. We were taught you just didn't talk about sexual stuff, not even with your friends or your parents, and God forbid you have to go to a complete stranger like a therapist and try to bare your soul. I do think one of the things that's been helpful, not a lot of things have been helpful with social media, but one of the things I do think has been helpful in social media is men are, the demographics are showing the men are scrolling and rolling through and reading stuff and picking up on reels, and they're getting little snippets of information that's like, oh, that's how I think. Oh, yeah, that's how I feel. And again, it's a validation of what's going on in their mind, but they still don't have a way of getting it out of their head in a conversation like you and I are having. And that's where I feel like the real true benefit is for a man. Women, they'll talk to their sister, their mother, their best friend, their neighbor, the person who delivers their mail, the person that's checking them out at the grocery store. If there's an opportunity to talk and the woman feels this is a safe person, they'll just start talking about anything, including sex. Right?
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
So one of the things that we talked about with my women groups, and we talked here about it, is that we do have the ability to talk to each other, and it increases our aging, our cell aging, even
Correct.
to the cell. What about men on this? Is this working the same way? Do you recommend having a good friend for a man that they can talk about all the things that we talk about?
I do recommend, but that's a rarity, like a real rarity. There are certain conversations that best buds just don't talk about. Now, they will talk about, they'll talk about it abstractly, but it's rare that a guy that has a guy friend Let's just say, it's my fishing buddy, and we're out there on the Gulf, we're fishing. And the guy rarely is going to say, "Hey man, I got to talk to you about something. Like, do you have a problem getting an erection? Like, or do you?" Rarely does it get that detailed. It's more like, "Yeah, I've noticed that things are just different these days. See, they topped up abstractly, and they're just that uncomfortable because men realize how hard it is to get a good friend that you can trust."
And that's back to that embarrassing
It
part
is.
too.
And you just don't want to be that guy who has a good friend and you cross a line that you didn't know was there and you lose that friend because it's so difficult for us guys to make friends as adults. I mean, deep friends. We got a lot of surface friends, but for those deep conversations that we know we really need to talk about, conversations that we really are thinking about, man, that's that scary spot where you want to know. And so for me, I always ask a gentleman who's senior 50 plus, I always ask, do you have one guy that you've ever talked to or you think you could talk to? And then we do discuss that and bring that up. Yes. But we don't have the luxuries you ladies do. We just don't. And that makes it problematic. It's like we know we need to talk. And I know I experienced that myself. I mean, I knew I needed it, but I was not modeled that by my father. My father never talked about anything personal. And everybody that I was around through my 20s and 30s, no one ever talked about anything with any depth, of what I considered depth. And it wasn't until I started going, I need some help with this. And I got some therapy to deal with just life in general. And the therapist was really helpful. A therapist allowed me to be that surrogate individual for me to just say, I want to talk about stuff I can't talk to about anybody else. So I highly recommend for a man that whether it's, personally, even if it's not a really good buddy, okay, if it's not someone like that, then I do recommend you do look for a life coach or a therapist. And there's a big difference between the two. A life coach is like a buddy. Think of it as like your high school coach. You had a good relationship with your high school coach. You liked him. You thought he was great. You thought he was a kind person. He was encouraging to you. And he had some life experiences. And he would always say, I understand how you feel. I've felt that way before. And I have found, and he delivers you this nugget of information. So he doesn't really tell you what to do. And he doesn't say, well, how's your relationship with your mother, right? Because a therapist always wants to go back in time and try to figure out what's wrong with you. Whereas a life coach is like, hey, I'm here to help you go forward. See the difference? Life coaching helps you go forward. Therapists want to go back first. And most men don't want to go backwards. Those are scary places.
So true. So true. What's the connection between overall health and sexual wellness?
It's a big connection, Stuart. It's a very big connection. I would say the number one thing I immediately go to when this question comes up with men is testosterone, like hormones. As we age, our body is producing less hormones, both in males and females. And it gets talked about a lot with females.
Yeah.
A lot of females know about it. It's on the news. It's in magazine articles. It's blasted across social media. Hormone replacement for females. But until the last maybe decade has male hormone replacement really started being a topic of conversation. What has been talked about for men over the last 2 decades is boner pills. Think about it. It's not about your health. It's about how to keep an erection.
True.
And the marketers are marketing, and so they're making men think, well, what's most important for me is to keep an erection, whereas what's really most important is to make sure your hormones are balanced properly. Because if your hormones are balanced properly, then you won't have a problem with an erection a lot of times with ED. So I immediately start talking about that. I share my own personal story. At age 39, I was a successful triathlete. I was in the gym 5 days a week. I was the picture of health. And I couldn't perform like I used to even 5 years ago. And I thought there's something wrong. So I mentioned it to a doctor friend of mine, and he said, you need to go get your testosterone checked. I'd never thought about that. I'm like, I'm 40. Why would I need to do that? and my levels were below the minimums. So some people just burn through their testosterone quicker than others. So at age 40, I started on a testosterone injection regimen, and I'm 56 now. In 16 years, I've had no side effects, no prostate enlargements, the things that they talk about. But what does testosterone really do for a male? Oh, it's everything. Number one, besides the sexual benefit that provides, which number one, I think I always tell men, look, when you take testosterone, you're not going to walk. It's not like popping a Cialis or a Viagra. It's not going to give you an instant erection. But when you're in the mood, it's going to help you in those moments. Okay, number one. Number two, it's great with fat metabolism. So what happens is, guys, when we age, we start storing fat around our midsection, and we don't like that. So this will be helpful for fat metabolism. Helps us with mood stabilization. Elevated levels of testosterone will help you just maintain a more calm demeanor. Number three, it helps us with sleeping better. It allows us to get into our beta rhythms so much more effective. And then number four, it helps us with skin regeneration and organ regeneration. It's helping with all these regenerative stuff. So beyond the sexual benefits, there are far more other just physiological benefits. And that's why men should be, I tell men after the age of 40, you should be seeing your physician and getting your hormones tested regularly.
That brings up the next question.
Sure.
How can couples reframe intimacy so it's not performance, but it's closeness?
Ooh. Man, you're coming with some great questions today, Stuart. My goodness. Is this Stump the Life Coach Day?
Not today. No, not today.
No, you're bringing some really great questions. I appreciate that. Let's talk about, in order to answer that question, let me paint a picture. All right, picture for ourselves and for our listeners, right? So what do women want out of a relationship with their partner? And I always like to say their partner because sometimes people are thinking their husband, but relationship dynamics have shifted over the past several decades, where it's not just that's my husband, that's my wife. Now it's partners. People are just long time. They live together and they never get married. They love each other. They act like they're married, but they never sealed the deal. So you can't really call them their wife or their husband. So I like to use the partnerships. I feel like myself, I have a second marriage. I got married for my second time at age 45. And I refer to her all the time when I introduce myself, say, this is my wife and my life partner, because I truly feel that she is my life partner. So to answer this question, going back to the demographics, what do women want? What do men want? Because this is important. Women are approaching their life partner there's their needs. I want to feel loved, cherished, desired. I want intimacy and closeness. Those are the five. That's what a woman wants. Now,
Wow.
if you go back and listen to what I just said, sex was not one of the five. And for women over the age of 50, and this is another little funny thing. Do you know why, Stuart, it's called menopause?
Pausing men.
That's right.
Pausing men.
That's it. It's because, hey, we're on a man pause, right? Women really over the age of 50, there's always the outliers, but most women over the age of 50, they're like, I've done my duty, right? I've had sex all these years, all these decades. I've done that. My body, my hormones, everything. That's not top of my priority. It's not top of list. But what is top of list is I want intimacy. I want closeness. I want to feel like we're doing life together. I want a best friend.
I was just about to say best friend.
Best friend.
Yeah.
That means way more than I want sex 3 times a week. Men, it's just the opposite. Men don't care about closeness, intimacy, best friend, any of that. They really don't. They're like, It still works. So, well, come on, bow chicka wow wow. They turn on the music. They come out of the shower and they're wiggling like, woohoo, look, it works. And they just think their wife is going back to like, oh, okay, let's go. And women are like, oh my gosh, not again. I have to see, So it is kind of humorous in one sense of the word, but it's also something we really have to understand. As a man, you got to understand that your wife or your life partner is wanting something that you might not be capable of giving because you just, number one, either you don't know it, or B, you're not capable of giving it because it's not something you've worked on. It doesn't come natural for a man to be intimate. I'm going to say that again. It does not come natural for a man to be intimate. That's a very foreign concept to their brain. Now, it's very natural for a man to be sexual. We're born that way. But to be intimate, because when you say the word intimate, a man goes, well, what does that mean?
Straight to sex.
Straight to sex. But a woman intimacy may not even be about sex. It may just, I just want you to hold my hand. I just want you to take me on a weekend vacation.
Or listen to the deepest secrets or what you're...
That's correct. That is so correct, right? It has nothing to do with physicality. It has everything to do with the mentality instead of the physicality.
As men age, a lot of us wrestle with masculinity. We are now not 40 anymore, but yet we think we are. So how do you guide men through the transition?
The first question it's a great question. The first thing I do is ask them this question. Describe to me or give me a name of someone that you think is masculine. Like, give me a picture, name somebody.
Gosh, off the top of my head, nobody.
Yeah,
I mean, men are men, but I don't look at them as masculinity people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I usually say, tell me a movie star that you think, damn, that guy's, I wish I could be him. Because for some guys, it's John Wayne. For other guys, it's Sean Connery.
All the guys I used to think were masculine are old like me now.
Well, but you still, they embodied, at some point in time. At one point,
they did.
They embodied masculinity. Sean Connery, to me, is a guy that just like, I've seen him in James Bond, I'm more of a Sean Connery fan than a Roger Moore fan. When the two of them, you're putting two to two together. I'm more of a Dwayne Johnson, The Rock kind of guy. He's more masculine than, say, Tom Cruise. See the difference?
Yeah.
I like Tom Cruise. I think he's a good actor, but he's not necessarily so as masculine as Dwayne. So every guy has their own vision or their own version of masculinity. Other people might think that their version of masculinity. So when I ask them this question, it tells me a lot about them really quickly. Because somebody who might pick someone like Sean Connery, who's an action star, or the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's also an action star but a muscular guy, I immediately realize that they equate masculinity with strength and presence.
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
What if someone said, "Oh, masculinity? I think Barack Obama is really masculine." Well, okay. Barack Obama is neither one. He's not muscular and he's not an action star. But what is he? Well, he's a statesman. He's an orator. He's well polished. He presents himself well. That's what they think, they should, that's their idea of embodiment. So being able to delve and understand how you are and realize that if you do think that Barack Obama is the epitome of masculinity, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just the same as if you think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is or an action Sean Connery is. It's okay, but it helps us as we're working with a client or as you're working with yourself and going down this road. It helps you understand how you form your thoughts and how that's going to play out in your own relationship. Because if you think Sean Connery is the shit, so to speak, then you're going to want to embody him and indirectly for your life partner. She thinks you got to be Sean Connery. And the question I always ask the guy is, okay, well, let's just run with this. You think Sean Connery is the definition of masculinity, so I always follow up the question with, who does your wife think is masculine? And it's amazing. The answer is just a lot of times polar opposites. And right there I go, can you see that there might be a disconnect? Like you're thinking and I say this because a lot of men, as they're aging, they're thinking about how do I look in the mirror? And I compare that to how my buddy looks in the mirror. And I compare that to what I think my wife wants me to look like in the mirror. And so I got to get to the gym. I got to work out because I want to be masculine. I want to be attractive to my wife. And their spouse is going, really wish that 15 hours he spends in the gym trying to pump himself up, he would spend at least half that time just with me sitting on the couch, drinking coffee and holding my hand, watching a movie. To her, that's a sense of masculinity, not the muscle-bound new guy. You see? So it goes back to helping men understand what not only their perceived definition of masculinity is, because perception is their reality, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a man having Sean Connery as the definition of masculinity, but how does that impact your spouse, assuming you're married or assuming your relationship, and is that really that important to her, or is it just important to you?
What about, so I know if I go out and I exercise all the time, I start to feel good about myself.
Yes.
And feel, a whole different mindset starts to kick in. Is this true from?
It is true for men, and that goes back to what's happening inside of us, physiologically.
So do you tell
Endorphins.
men to go,
I tell men that it's important that they have a physical regimen, and you've got to determine what that is. For instance, if there's a guy who loves to golf, and so I always, when I'm meeting with a client, I always, delve in. So tell me your hobbies and what do you like to do? Describe what does your week look like? And if they go, I play golf 3 times a week. Well, the first thing I'm not going to do is say, okay, well, you're going to need to stop playing golf or cut back in golf, and you're going to need to start going to the gym, because that's not my role as a life coach. It's not. My role is to improve, if they ask, to help them get to where they're going. So not just to superimpose my ideas on them, but more or less to get them to think and a little deeper and problem solve on their own. But scientifically, we do know that if you exercise, it releases cortisol, it releases endorphins, and those are good and those are healthy for you, and they're body markers that will improve your life. And if nothing else, it's not going to roll back the clock, but it's going to slow the clock down on aging, which I think is the man's greatest fear.
So if a person is getting ready, going all the way back to what we started with, they're getting ready to retire, would you recommend that they go ahead and pick up hobbies and pick up working out so that when they retire, that it's a lot smoother,
It is. That I would definitely recommend that. And I've had both clients come to me. I've had clients that retired, and then 3 months later after retirement, they're like, I'm in crisis mode. Help me. Right? They did not plan for retirement. Now, financially, they're planned, but relationally or physically, they didn't plan very well. Financially, they're prepared. Then I've had clients who are like, I think I'm gonna retire in about 5 years. I'm putting together a plan, and those are the wise people. That's the wise approach. Once you know where you're thinking, I usually ask men about 3 years prior to retirement, we need to start thinking and planning. Let's make a plan of what you're going to do, not only financially, because usually men, it's all about can we make it financially, and that's all they think about. But there's more than that. There's the financial plan, there's the physical plan, there's the personal plan, and there's the relationship plan. There's usually 4 plans in place.
And the aging as well.
Correct. Well, the aging is going to happen. I usually think of your aging is happening, and you can either age gracefully or not.
Well,
I'm trying to kick and fight the whole way.
I get it. I get it.
I mean, I really think humor and having I know you can't go out and have fun all the time, but doing things that are fun for you
Right.
help a lot. And
Balance,
yes,
balance,
you're right. Balance.
balance. And what happens, and again, that goes back to plan. And I'm sure most of your listeners have heard this: fail to plan, plan to fail. So plans are important. And what's interesting to me is some of the men that I've had the pleasure of working with, they are very successful in their careers. I mean, they're the pinnacle of their careers. They know what to do in the business world, and that's about as much as they know. And you get them outside of that, and because they're the CEO and they're used to being the boss, then they think they've got everything else covered as well. And it's almost like a shock to them to realize, man, I don't have all these other areas. And then there's that little bit of a posturing situation of their pride, or is their pride and their fear the two biggest gut killers for men? That's the two biggest stumbling blocks for men: pride and fear. Are they going to allow those to dictate their life, or are they going to go, I need to find somebody I can trust?
Well,
and
how
work
can
with them?
wives help out? What do you recommend?
That's a great question. That's a great question, actually. Let me think about that. I think one of the ways that wives can help in this time is, first and foremost, what y'all all do so well already, which is be supportive. I mean, one thing I can think about for most women is that they are supportive. Um, beyond and I just mean in all areas, all aspects, right? I think another thing though that would be, and I'm just my brain is spinning through this question, is wives tend to be better planners than the men. And so I think if the wives would take it upon themselves to be a little proactive, and I'm going to use the word sneaky and not in a bad way, but I'm going to say, I'm doing this and it looks like it's fun, but it really has a little bit more of a depth meaning to it. And so plan something like look for a retreat.
Mm.
A couples retreat is what I always like to recommend. Look for a couples retreat that will get you in. You'll be fun. It'll be some spa stuff, but it's also an opportunity for your spouse to see other spouses at these retreats, to realize, oh, well, there's other men that are here and they're talking and they don't seem to be embarrassed. And, oh, well, it must be okay. And it just helps them realize, so it is okay maybe to be a little vulnerable. So that's one way I think, or two ways I think a spouse could really help out.
Tristan, if you could give one piece of encouragement to men who feel like, aging is stealing their spark, what would it be?
If aging is stealing your spark, and it's presented that way, I would ask them immediately. My first thought would be, describe to me what your spark is. Like, what is that spark? Is it a sexual spark? Is it are you physically tired? Like you just don't have energy? Is it a relational spark with your spouse? You feel like the spark is gone between you and your significant other. I would want to know exactly what that spark is to them, so I'm not just answering it abstractly. So I'm going to throw it back to you. Which one of those three, if would you like me to delve into this the relational part between you and your significant other? The spark is gone, but or the spark is gone sexually, or the spark is gone like you're tired all day long, like you're exhausted, like you just don't have the energy that you used to.
Well, thinking broadly,
Sure.
for this audience, I think we want to talk about the loss of energy, the loss of just being able to do it. And I think that would lead into the other ones that would help with their relationship with their spouse and everything.
So if it's loss of energy, again, that's internal. Mm-hmm. Internal means we need to look immediately, first thing, going back to how's your hormone level? We need to get your hormone levels checked and balanced. Because I guarantee you, if you have low testosterone, low T, and you get that balanced medically by a medical professional, you are going to have the energies of a 30-year-old. You're 70, you'll drop right back to a 30. Internally, you'll feel like, woo! And I'm just saying everything, you'll have more energy than you remembered in a while. So that would be number one. And if you've got that kind of energy now, you're more motivated to go out and maybe go to the gym or go bicycling or go walking. You're going to be more active. You're going to want to be more active, right? The more active you are, what happens? You start to feel better about yourself. If you start to feel better about yourself, usually you start to maybe reshape your body, I call it your earth suit, what your earth suit looks like. And if you're starting, men are saying, oh, I'm getting my pecs back, my arms. Hey, honey, look at my guns, If they're having those kind of conversations, even lighthearted, that tells me that they're getting their sexual function back as well.
Wow, that's true.
So will bring them back to, maybe getting that spark back with their spouse. But we've got to remember, and I'm always telling men, just because you have got your spark back downstairs doesn't mean your wife might have the spark to entertain going downstairs. So we've got to talk about how we blend your expectations as a man versus your wife's expectations as your life partner. And what does she want with her spark and that? So,
Well, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
This has been a powerful conversation.
Yeah.
You've reminded us that aging doesn't mean loss of self. It means redefining what matters, whether that's in health, intimacy, or purpose.
Correct.
And to our listeners, remember, aging's not something to be feared. It's something to be embraced with courage, humor, and connection.
Correct.
If you've enjoyed today's conversation, share it with a friend, or even better, start the conversation in your own circle. And don't forget to check out our Retired Life Wish You Were Here merchandise. We've got everything from coffee mugs to travel bags, because living boldly in retirement deserves a little style. And also check out our website at retiredlifewywh.com. And remember, subscribe and follow us on social media and our website. Thank you.